Alright, I've been working on city ecology together with Doreen and Sophie. We try to look at it from a very anthropological point of view. City ecology is all about the quality of life. So we ask the question, how livable is Brooklyn? The New York Bay was home for one of the biggest and most successful harbors for many years. In the past few decades, industry shifted their focus to other harbors where resources and cheap labor were in abundance, leaving the bay a bit neglected. So New York City became one of the greatest cities in the world thanks to its water. The question that you are asking is, how swimmable is Brooklyn? Brooklyn is part of an island, but in comparison with Manhattan, a great part of Brooklyn isn't in relationship with the natural landscapes such as water or parks. Where connection with the waterfront could be possible, often we meet a fence or a wall. This is the waterfront of Brooklyn, and this is the inaccessibility map. The black line indicates where we can't reach the shore anymore because of industry, because of privatization of water shore. The blue dots indicate the furthest point where we can still see the water. When we then overlay this map with the real estate pricier neighborhoods, like you can see Williamsburg and the region and Dumbo, I think, you see it overlaps quite exactly. So we can say that waterfront accessibility and waterfront views are considered valuable. When you eventually reach the shore, this is what you'll get, the water quality map. The water quality of New York has significantly improved in the past few years, but is still quite in bad shape. Definitely when you look at the Red Hook area and the area at the Jamaica Bay at the JFK airport. So it's basically the both sides of our strip that we are talking about. The left picture is of the Gowanus Canal, and the right is the Jamaica Bay. When you're talking about water, we have to talk about water retention. The whiter areas in this map indicate the place where water can be retained into the soil. The darker areas, in the darker areas, the sewers have to cope with all the rainfall. So we have the really hard surfaces and the soft surfaces as well. The way the water flows on those hard surfaces is indicated by this map. Those little black dots are basically arrows, but it's not really that visible. And the red dots indicate where the water overflow, in case of heavy rainfall, gets dumped into the ocean. Together with this dumping comes a lot of sewage, and this sewage, together with the illegal industrial dumping, is really one of the major reasons for the bad water quality in New York. So we started looking at the topography. By looking at the topography, we found out that Brooklyn's grid developed according to the topography. The different gray shades are the different angles of the Brooklyn grid. And we can see that the streets parallel with the lines of equal height. So we can say that, like in Manhattan, it wasn't implemented as rigidly as in Manhattan, but it more adapted to the existing condition of topography. When we're talking about topography, we also are talking about flooding. Those regions, the regions are indicated in case of hurricanes, which are in risk of flooding. So we see category 1, category 2, and so on. More inland, poor air quality is a really bad, is a very big issue for public health. So we ask the question, how breathable is Brooklyn? This is the particulate matter map. Particulate matter map is, it shows the concentrations of high particulate matter, and it is mainly caused by old boilers of housing projects and vehicle exhaust industrial processes. These are the old boilers that are indicated, so it perfectly overlaps where there's a really high concentration of particulate matter. And this red area indicates where there are respiratory hospitalizations, or the rate of it is really high. You can see in the south of Brooklyn there's a big red zone, while there's no industry, and this is mainly because there's also a very poor indoor air quality in the housing projects. This also causes a lot of respiratory health problems. The last question that we're asking is, how tasty is Brooklyn? Unhealthy food is a really big issue for the public health of the people in Brooklyn. This is a Voronoi diagram showing the homogeneous distribution of the pizza restaurants throughout our area. The gray map is a poverty map, so how darker the map, how poor the neighborhood is. We can see that there's a quite homogeneous distribution, so pizzas are cheap, they are quick, and they're mostly right around the corner. We did the same exercise for the community gardens. That gives this map. Surprisingly, we found out that there are a lot of community gardens in the poorer neighborhoods. This can be explained by the fact that there are a lot of vacant lots in those areas, and this gives an opportunity for urban farming. I do have to add to a critical note with those maps, because we only mapped the pizza places that were on the internet. So it's possible that the pizza places who are in the poorer neighborhoods doesn't have a website or aren't on Google Maps. But I think it's still quite relevant. This is a typical vacant lot farm. It's in Bed-Stuy. And the really critical question that we're asking is, how do we have to address the sustainable, the environmental problems on the long-term vision? How can we look beyond the Bloomberg administration? In the 1800s, the planners, they were planning for 100 years, for 200 years. But nowadays, we're like planning for 2 years and 5 years at next. But those environmental problems are that threatening and that's huge that we need a long-term vision. And this is a really big question that we are trying to find out.